The metal floor was cold against Minho's cheek. He could taste blood in his mouth from where the Vraxian guard had hit him an hour ago. Maybe 2 hours. Time was hard to track in this place. The prison hold of the warship had no windows, no clocks, just dim red lights that never changed. Minho lifted his head slowly and looked around the cell. Sora sat in the corner, her medical uniform torn and dirty. She was wrapping a piece of cloth around Hyun's arm, where he had been burned during questioning. Jiwoo leaned against the far wall, her eyes closed, but Minho knew she was not sleeping. None of them could sleep here. They had been captured 3 days ago. Their small transport ship was carrying diplomatic papers to a human colony when the Vraxian warship appeared. The aliens did not ask questions. They just fired, disabled the engines, and boarded. The Vraxians were tall, nearly 7 feet, with scales like a snake and eyes that reflected light like a cat. They moved fast and hit hard. Now the 4 humans were prisoners on the warship called Dreadclaw. The Vraxians wanted information about human military bases and supply routes. They asked the same questions over and over. Where are your weapons? Where are your ships? How many soldiers do you have? The humans said nothing useful. Minho talked about peace treaties and diplomatic rules. Sora only spoke to ask for medical supplies for the others. Hyun refused to speak at all. Jiwoo gave them false information, sending them in wrong directions. The aliens did not like this. They used pain to make the humans talk. Electric shocks, heat, cold, hunger. But the 4 prisoners stayed strong. Minho did not understand why he felt so calm. He should be terrified. They all should be. But something inside him refused to break. The cell door opened with a loud metal sound. Commander Ralthos walked in. He was the leader of this ship, a Vraxian with scars across his face and arms. He had killed many enemies in many wars. His reputation was known even to humans. He enjoyed causing fear. 2 guards followed him into the cell. They grabbed Minho and pulled him to his feet. His legs were weak, but he stood as straight as he could. Ralthos looked at him with those cold reptile eyes. "You humans are strange," Ralthos said in his hissing voice. The alien spoke through translators that made their words sound sharp and angry. Most species break quickly. They cry. They beg. They tell us everything. But you 4 just sit here like you are waiting for something. Minho said nothing. He met the alien's eyes without looking away. Ralthos stepped closer. "What are you waiting for? Your government will not pay for you. Diplomatic workers are not important enough. Your military does not know where you are. No one is coming to save you." Still, Minho remained silent. This seemed to anger the commander. He struck Minho across the face with the back of his clawed hand. Minho fell to the floor again, new blood mixing with the old. "Take him to interrogation room 3, Ralthos ordered his guards. "Let us see if more pain makes him remember how to talk." The guards dragged Minho out of the cell. Sora started to stand, but a guard pushed her back down. The door closed, leaving the 3 prisoners alone again. They took Minho to a large room with metal chairs and strange machines. The guards strapped him into a chair in the center. Ralthos walked around him slowly like a predator circling prey. "I will ask you one more time," the commander said. "Where is your fleet stationed in this sector?" "I am a diplomatic aide," Minho answered, his voice steady despite the pain. "I do not have that information. Even if I did, the Galactic Accords protect diplomatic personnel from—" Ralthos laughed, a sound like rocks scraping together. "The Accords. You think I care about rules written by weak species? Humans are new to space. You do not understand how the galaxy really works. The strong take what they want, the weak suffer." He activated one of the machines. Pain shot through Minho's body like fire in his veins. He clenched his teeth, refusing to scream. After what felt like forever, the pain stopped. Impressive, Ralthos admitted. You have will. But will breaks eventually. Everyone breaks. The torture continued for what might have been an hour. Questions, pain, silence, more pain. Minho's vision started to blur. His body was shaking, but he gave them nothing. Finally, Ralthos seemed to grow bored. He turned off the machines and stood in front of Minho. Perhaps you think your military will rescue you, the commander said, his tone mocking now. We intercepted some of your communications. Your fleet is searching this sector, yes. They are sending ships. They even mentioned some special soldier they are sending to this area. Minho's heart jumped, but he kept his face blank. Ralthos continued, enjoying his words. Some code name. What was it? He looked at one of his guards, who checked a data pad. The Reaper, sir, the guard replied. Ah, yes, the Reaper, Ralthos repeated, laughing. A dramatic name. Are your people so desperate that they name their soldiers after death? This Reaper, he is supposed to save you? He laughed harder. One soldier. Even if he finds this ship, what can one human do against a warship with 300 Vraxian warriors? The moment that name left the commander's mouth, everything changed. Minho felt it in his chest, a sudden warmth that pushed away the pain and fear. His eyes went wide. He could not help it. Ralthos noticed immediately. The laughter died on his lips. What is that reaction? Why do you look like that? Minho said nothing, but he could not stop the small smile that came to his face. It hurt to smile with his broken lip, but he did it anyway. Answer me, Ralthos demanded, grabbing Minho's chin. What does that name mean to you? Minho looked directly into the alien's eyes. When he spoke, his voice was quiet but filled with something new. Not fear, not pain. Something that sounded almost like pity. You should not have said that name, Minho whispered. You really should not have. Ralthos struck him again, but Minho just kept smiling through the blood. The commander ordered the guards to take him back to the cell. As they dragged him through the corridors, Minho felt hope for the first time in 3 days. The Reaper. They had said his name. That meant he was coming. That meant they just had to survive a little longer. When they threw him back into the cell, Sora rushed over to check his injuries. Hyun and Jiwoo gathered close. They mentioned the Reaper, Minho said, his voice barely a whisper. All 3 of them froze. Sora's hands stopped shaking. Hyun lifted his head, his eyes suddenly alert. Jiwoo's mouth opened in surprise, then curved into a small smile. Are you sure? Hyun asked. Minho nodded. Commander Ralthos said the name himself. He has no idea what it means. The 4 prisoners looked at each other. No words were needed. They all understood. The aliens had made a terrible mistake. They had hurt the wrong people. They had said the wrong name. Now they would learn what humans did to those who hurt their own. Now they would meet the Reaper. Commander Ralthos could not stop thinking about the humans' reaction. That look in their eyes when he said the name. He had seen fear many times in his long military career. He had seen anger, hatred, desperation, but what he saw in those human faces was different. It was hope. More than that, it was certainty. Like they knew something he did not. It bothered him. Ralthos had not survived 3 decades of war by ignoring warning signs. He went to the bridge and called his intelligence officer, a smaller Vraxian named Thex, who handled data and information. I need you to search our files, Ralthos ordered. Find everything we have about a human soldier called the Reaper. Thex worked at his station for several minutes. His clawed fingers moved across the holographic displays. Sir, there are multiple references in our intelligence database. Also in reports from other species. The information is scattered and often contradictory. Show me, Ralthos commanded. The main screen filled with data. Reports from different planets, different wars, different years. Thex began reading them aloud. First report, 4 years ago, Keltharian Swarm Wars. A human transport ship was captured by Keltharian forces. 53 human prisoners were taken to a prison camp on Kelth 7. 3 weeks later, a rescue team found the camp destroyed. All Keltharian guards dead, over 200 soldiers. The human prisoners were alive and unharmed. They reported that a single human soldier infiltrated the camp and eliminated all hostile forces in one night. The Keltharians had sensors, defenses, and numerical advantage. None of it mattered. Ralthos frowned. One soldier killed 200 Keltharians? That is not possible. The report continues, sir. The surviving Keltharians from nearby camps described the attacker as a ghost. They said he moved through their sensors without being detected. He killed silently. They never saw him coming. What else? Ralthos asked, his voice tight. Thex pulled up another file. 2 years ago, Ashvar border conflict. A human medical station was raided by Ashvar pirates. They took 12 human doctors and nurses as hostages, demanding ransom. The Ashvar leader sent a video to human authorities showing the hostages being tortured. Within 48 hours, every pirate in that base was dead. The hostages were found alive, suffering from trauma but physically unharmed. Security footage from the base shows mostly static, but brief frames captured a human male in black armor moving at incredible speed. More reports appeared on the screen. Each one told a similar story: human prisoners or civilians in danger. A mysterious soldier appearing, often alone. Enemies eliminated with brutal efficiency. The rescued humans always survived. There is a pattern, sir, Thex said, his voice uncertain. This Reaper seems to specialize in rescue operations. Every confirmed sighting involves captured or endangered humans. He appears, eliminates the threat, and disappears. There are no records of him ever failing a mission. Ralthos studied the data. Some reports seemed exaggerated, clearly influenced by fear and rumor. But there were too many consistent details. The black armor, the silent movement, the fact that he worked alone, the absolute lethality. What do we know about his actual capabilities? Ralthos asked. Humans are physically weaker than most warrior species. They are slower. Their senses are limited. How can one human be this dangerous? Thex pulled up a tactical analysis file. According to our data on human soldiers, they compensate for physical limitations with technology and training. They use stealth tactics, psychological warfare, and environmental advantages. Humans are also known for their endurance. They do not tire as quickly as most species. They can sustain combat operations for extended periods. That does not explain this. Ralthos gestured at the screen filled with reports. These are not normal human capabilities. No, sir, Thex agreed. But there are theories. Some reports suggest this soldier has cybernetic enhancements. Others mention specialized training that takes decades. There are psychological profiles from survivors describing a level of focus and determination that goes beyond normal combat behavior. One Keltharian officer who encountered him said it was like fighting someone who had removed all fear, all hesitation, all doubt, just pure purpose. Ralthos was quiet for a long moment. He looked at the data, weighing it against his experience. Much of it seemed like propaganda designed to scare enemies, but the sheer volume of reports from different sources, different species, different time periods, it was harder to dismiss. Could this be multiple soldiers using the same name? He asked. A unit rather than an individual? Possibly, sir, but the physical descriptions are consistent. Human male, estimated age between 40 and 50 standard years. Black tactical armor with skull markings, height approximately 1.8 meters. The signature is always the same. Silent infiltration followed by rapid elimination of all hostile forces. Ralthos made a decision. Increase security throughout the ship. Double all guard patrols. Install additional sensors in critical areas. If this Reaper is real and if he is coming, we will be ready. No single soldier, no matter how skilled, can defeat a full warship crew. Yes, sir, Thex replied, but his voice lacked confidence. Meanwhile, in the prison cell, the 4 human captives spoke quietly among themselves. The guards were monitoring their conversations through listening devices, but the humans did not seem to care. Sora was telling a story. When I was in medical school, they taught us about military rescue operations. There was one case study they used as an example. A group of human soldiers was captured during the colony rebellion. The enemy was using them for experiments, terrible things. The rescue took place in less than 6 hours from when the capture was reported. One operative infiltrated the facility, neutralized 63 enemy combatants, and extracted all 15 prisoners without a single human casualty. Was it him? Jiwoo asked. The Reaper? The instructor never said the name, Sora replied. But she told us that humanity has warriors who embody everything that made us apex predators on Earth. Patience, persistence, strategic thinking, the ability to turn any environment into an advantage. She said these warriors do not stop, do not hesitate, and do not fail when human lives are at stake. Hyun spoke next, his voice rough from staying silent so long. My cousin served in the military. He told me about training exercises they ran. They called them Reaper scenarios. The objective was to survive while a highly skilled operative hunted you through hostile territory. He said nobody ever survived the full exercise. The operative always found them, always completed the objective. They used it to teach soldiers about real danger, about what a true apex predator could do. My brother was in the Outer Colonies conflict, Minho added. He did not talk much about what he saw there, but one time, after he had been drinking, he told me something. He said, if you are ever captured by an enemy force and you hear them mention the Reaper, you just need to survive a little longer. He will come. He always comes. But who is he really? Jiwoo asked. Is he even human? He is human, Sora said with certainty. That is what makes him so terrifying to other species. They expect humans to be weak. We do not have thick armor like the Vraxians. We are not as fast as the Ashvar. We do not have telepathy like the Keltharians. But we have something they do not understand. We have the ability to adapt, to plan, to overcome any obstacle through sheer determination. The Reaper is what happens when you take those human traits and refine them into a weapon. The 4 prisoners sat in silence for a moment. Then Hyun laughed quietly. The commander thinks he can prepare for this. He has no idea. They never do, Minho agreed. They see one human and think it is just one soldier. They do not understand what they have done. What do you mean? Jiwoo asked. Minho looked at the ceiling, knowing the guards were listening. He spoke clearly so they would hear. They heard us. They tortured diplomatic personnel protected by the Galactic Accords. They made it personal, and when it becomes personal, when it becomes about protecting human lives, that is when humans become most dangerous. We do not have the biggest weapons or the strongest armies, but we have warriors who will walk through fire to bring our people home. They made the wrong enemy. Above them, in the security station, the Vraxian guards heard every word. Some of them shifted nervously. Others laughed and called the humans delusional. But a few, the veterans who had fought humans before, did not laugh. They checked their weapons and stayed alert. The ship traveled through dark space, and the 4 prisoners waited. They knew the time was coming. The Reaper was out there, getting closer with every passing hour. And the Vraxians had no idea what was about to happen to them. 18 hours passed after Commander Ralthos spoke the name. The warship Dreadclaw continued through space, and the crew went about their duties with increased alertness. Extra guards patrolled the corridors. Sensors ran continuous scans. Everyone was armed and ready. Then, the small things began. The first incident was minor. A security camera on Deck 7 flickered to static for exactly 3 seconds. When it came back online, everything looked normal. The security officer made a note in his log, but did not report it to the commander. Technical glitches happen sometimes on old warships. 10 minutes later, a motion sensor in an empty cargo bay triggered. The system recorded movement, then immediately reset itself. 2 guards went to investigate. They found nothing. The cargo bay was empty, sealed, and showed no signs of entry. They decided it was a sensor malfunction. An hour after that, an exterior hull panel's magnetic seal disengaged without any logged command. It resealed itself 3 seconds later. This was noted in the engineering log as a possible power fluctuation. Commander Ralthos heard about these small incidents during his regular status report. He did not think much of them. Ships this size had minor technical problems all the time. He ordered the engineering team to run diagnostics but did not raise any alarms. But then the bodies started appearing. 2 guards were patrolling the lower engineering section. It was a routine patrol, one they had done hundreds of times. They were supposed to check in every 15 minutes. When the 15 minutes passed with no report, their relief team was sent to find them. The relief guards found both Vraxians dead on the floor. Their throats had been cut with surgical precision. The wounds were clean, made by someone who knew exactly where to strike. Both guards still had their weapons holstered. They had not even had time to draw them. There were no signs of struggle, no blood anywhere except around the bodies, no footprints, no evidence of who had done this. The security footage from that section showed only static. 3 minutes of complete interference, then the feed returned to normal. The 2 guards were already dead. Commander Ralthos was informed immediately. He went to the engineering section himself to see the bodies. His experienced eyes studied the scene. The killer had known what he was doing. The kills were fast, silent, and professional. This was not random violence. This was execution. "Lock down all non-essential areas," Ralthos ordered. "All patrols now work in teams of 4. No one goes anywhere alone. I want weapon checks every hour, and find out what is causing the sensor interference." The crew moved quickly to follow orders. Fear was starting to spread through the ship. 2 trained warriors killed without making a sound. How was that possible? The next incident came 4 hours later. The munitions officer went to the main armory to check weapon inventory. It was a routine task, done twice per shift. The armory was sealed with heavy doors and required a command code to enter. The officer entered his code, and the door opened. He walked inside and stopped. 3 guards who were supposed to be on duty in the armory were lying on the floor, dead. The officer immediately backed out and sealed the door, then called for Commander Ralthos. When Ralthos arrived with a full security team, they examined the door logs. The armory had been sealed for the past 6 hours. No one had entered or exited according to the electronic records. The ventilation shafts were too small for even a human to fit through. There were no other access points, yet someone had gotten inside, killed 3 armed guards in a sealed room, and left without opening the door. "This is not possible," one of the guards said, his voice shaking. "No one can get through solid walls." But the evidence was in front of them. 3 more bodies. 3 more warriors who never had a chance to fight back. Ralthos felt a cold feeling in his chest. He had read the reports about the Reaper, about the impossible things he supposedly did. He had dismissed most of them as exaggeration. But now, standing in front of unexplained deaths in a sealed room, doubt crept into his mind. "How many dead now?" he asked his security chief. "5, sir." "In how many hours?" 6 hours since the first bodies were found. Ralthos made a decision. "Move the human prisoners to the main cargo hold. Set up a defensive position with 30 guards, heavy weapons, and every sensor we have. If this infiltrator is real, his goal is rescue. We use the prisoners as bait and kill him when he appears." The guards looked uncertain, but they followed orders. They went to the prison cell and roughly pulled the 4 humans to their feet. Minho, Sora, Hyun, and Jiwoo were led through the corridors of the ship. As they walked, Minho noticed that the ship felt different. The Vraxian crew members they passed looked nervous. Some gripped their weapons tightly. Others glanced around at shadows. "Something is wrong," one guard said to another in their language. The translator in the human cell had taught them some Vraxian words. "He is here," the other guard replied. "The ghost the humans talk about. He is killing us." Minho caught Sora's eye. She gave a tiny nod. They could both feel it. The atmosphere had changed. The Reaper was close now. As they entered a junction corridor, the lights flickered, just for a second, but everyone noticed. The temperature dropped noticeably. Jiwoo suppressed a smile. She had read about this in military reports. The Reaper used environmental controls to create fear. Humans understood that fear was a weapon as powerful as any gun. One of the guards pushed Hyun forward. "Move faster," he commanded. Hyun turned his head slightly and said quietly, "It is too late. You should have just let us go." "Silence!" the guard snarled, but his voice shook. They reached the cargo hold. It was a large open space, maybe 50 meters across. The Vraxians had set up a defensive perimeter. 30 soldiers stood in formation, all armed with heavy plasma rifles. Motion sensors were placed around the room. Thermal imaging equipment scanned continuously. Portable shield generators created overlapping fields of protection. The 4 human prisoners were placed in the center of the hold and made to sit on the floor. Guards surrounded them in a tight circle. Commander Ralthos watched from an observation deck above, protected by armored glass. "If this Reaper is real," Ralthos announced over the communication system, "he will come for the prisoners, and when he does, we will kill him. 30 trained warriors with heavy weapons against 1 human. He has no chance." The guards cheered, but it sounded forced. Everyone was on edge. Hours passed. Nothing happened. The prisoners sat calmly in the center of the room, not talking, barely moving. The guards remained at their posts, but some began to relax. Maybe the infiltrator had fled. Maybe he had been killed by the earlier security measures. Maybe this was all a misunderstanding. Then, all at once, every light in the cargo hold went dark. Not flickering, not dimming, just instant, complete darkness. The backup systems should have activated immediately, but they did not. Even the emergency lights failed. Shouts filled the darkness as guards activated their night vision equipment. The cargo hold filled with an eerie green glow from their visors. The soldiers could see each other and the prisoners sitting motionless in the center. They could see the walls and the doors. They saw nothing else. "Report!" Commander Ralthos demanded from his observation deck. "What do you see?" "Nothing, sir," one soldier replied. "The prisoners are still in position. No movement detected." "Maintain formation," Ralthos ordered. "Keep watching." The soldiers stood ready, weapons raised, scanning the darkness. Their sensors showed normal readings. Thermal imaging picked up only the heat signatures of the guards and prisoners. Motion detectors remained quiet. Then a soldier on the left side of the formation collapsed. He fell forward without making a sound. The guard next to him turned to look and saw his comrade lying still on the ground, dead. "Man down!" he shouted. Before anyone could respond, another soldier fell. Then another. Not from weapon fire. No explosions. No visible attackers. They just fell, one by one, like someone was moving through the formation and killing them silently. The guards opened fire into the darkness, their weapons lighting up the cargo hold with bright flashes. They hit nothing but walls and empty air. The thermal sensors still showed nothing. The motion detectors still showed nothing. But their brothers kept dying. A soldier turned around and caught a glimpse of movement at the edge of his vision. A dark shape, human-sized, there for less than a second before vanishing. He fired at where it had been, but hit only empty space. When he turned back, 3 more guards were down. Panic began to spread. The formation broke as soldiers backed away from something they could not see, could not track, could not fight. They fired wildly, hitting each other in the chaos. Commander Ralthos watched from above, horror growing in his chest. In the center of the cargo hold, the 4 human prisoners sat still. They did not flinch at the weapons fire around them. They did not cry out in fear. They just waited, knowing that very soon they would be safe. Because the Reaper had arrived. The screaming continued in the dark cargo hold. Vraxian guards died one by one, and no one could stop it. Commander Ralthos watched from his observation deck, his claws gripping the railing so hard they left marks in the metal. His soldiers fired thousands of rounds into the darkness, but every shot missed the target. 8 minutes. That was how long it took. 8 minutes from when the lights went out until the last Vraxian guard in the cargo hold stopped moving. 30 trained warriors, all dead. And the 4 human prisoners sat in the center, completely unharmed. The lights came back on. Ralthos saw the scene clearly now. Bodies everywhere, scattered across the cargo hold floor, and standing among them was a figure in black armor, a human, tall and lean, his tactical suit seeming to absorb the light around it. Blood covered his armor and the curved blade in his hand. His helmet had a skull-like faceplate that reflected the light in a way that made it look almost alive. The figure moved toward the prisoners with surprising gentleness. He knelt beside them and began cutting their restraints with a small knife. His movements were calm and precise, like he had all the time in the world. "Thank you," Minho said quietly as his hands came free. The figure nodded but said nothing. He moved to Sora next, then Hyun, then Jiwoo. When all 4 were free, Sora looked up at him and asked, "How many?" The man's voice, when he finally spoke, was quiet and controlled. There was no anger in it, no rage, just cold statement of fact. 73 so far, not finished yet." Hyun laughed weakly and said, "They called you the Reaper." The armored man tilted his head slightly. "They should not have hurt you." He reached to his wrist and activated something. 4 small devices, each no bigger than a coin, appeared in his hand. He attached one to each prisoner's clothing. "Personal shields," he explained. "They will protect you. Stay here in the cargo hold. I will return." "Where are you going?" Jiwoo asked, though she already knew the answer. The man stood and checked his weapons. He had multiple blades on his body, 2 pistols, and various other tools. "To finish this," he said simply. Then he turned and walked toward the cargo hold exit, reloading his pistol as he moved. Ralthos watched him leave on the security monitors. The human knew where the cameras were. He looked directly at one as he passed, and even through the skull faceplate, Ralthos felt the weight of that stare. This was not just a soldier. This was something else, something that had turned killing into an art form. The commander made his decision. He could not let this human escape. More importantly, he could not let him report what happened here. The Vraxian Empire had violated the Galactic Accords by torturing diplomatic personnel. If this became public, there would be consequences. The only solution was to kill this Reaper and destroy all evidence. Ralthos activated the ship-wide communication system. "All personnel, listen carefully. A human infiltrator is on board. He is armed and extremely dangerous. I want every soldier to converge on the route between the cargo hold and the hangar bays. Set up defensive positions at every junction. Use maximum force. I want him dead." Over 200 Vraxian warriors responded to the call. They filled the corridors with weapons and equipment. They set up heavy plasma cannons that could cut through armor like paper. They created kill zones with overlapping fields of fire. They sealed every door and bulkhead, forcing the human to take a single path, the path they had prepared for him. The Reaper reached the first junction and saw the ambush waiting. 50 soldiers with heavy weapons aimed down a long corridor. Any normal person would have looked for another route or tried to sneak past, but he did not stop. He did not slow down. He just walked forward. The Vraxians opened fire. The corridor lit up with plasma bolts and projectile rounds. The noise was deafening, but the human moved through the weapons fire like he could see each shot before it was fired. His body twisted and turned in ways that seemed impossible. Some shots hit his armor, and it absorbed the impact without slowing him down. Other shots missed by centimeters as he moved at the last possible moment. He reached the first group of soldiers in seconds. What happened next was brutal and efficient. The Reaper fought with a combination of blade work and hand-to-hand combat that the Vraxians had never encountered. He used their size against them, ducking under their attacks and striking at weak points in their armor. He targeted joints, throats, the gaps where armor plates met. A Vraxian warrior swung a massive arm at him. The Reaper caught the arm, used the momentum to spin the warrior around, and drove his blade through the back of the alien's neck. Another warrior charged from behind. The Reaper dropped low, swept the warrior's legs, and finished him before he hit the ground. The Reaper moved like water, flowing from one opponent to the next. When one of his blades broke against Vraxian armor, he took a weapon from a fallen enemy and used that. When his pistol ran out of ammunition, he reloaded with magazines from the dead soldiers around him. When the Vraxians tried to surround him, he used their own bodies as shields, always moving, always striking, never stopping. The fight moved through the corridors. More Vraxians fell. Some tried to flee, but he was faster. Some tried to close doors against him, but he cut through the locks. Some begged for mercy, but he gave none. They had hurt people under his protection. There was no mercy for that. Commander Ralthos watched in growing horror as his crew was systematically destroyed. This was not a battle. This was an execution. The human fought with a precision that spoke of decades of combat experience. Every movement had purpose. Every strike found its target. He wasted no energy, no motion, no time. Finally, Ralthos made his last stand. He stood in a junction corridor, armed with a heavy blade and a plasma rifle. Around him lay the bodies of his warriors. He was a veteran of countless battles. He would not run. He would face this demon like a true Vraxian warrior. The Reaper appeared at the far end of the corridor. He was covered in blood, his armor damaged in several places, but he moved without any sign of injury or fatigue. He saw Ralthos and stopped. For a moment they just looked at each other, warrior to warrior. Then Ralthos roared his challenge and charged forward, bringing all his strength to bear. The fight lasted 15 seconds. Ralthos was fast for his size, strong and skilled, but the human was faster. He sidestepped the charge, struck 3 times with perfect precision, and Ralthos fell. The commander crashed to the floor, unable to move, his body failing him. The Reaper knelt beside him. For the first time, he reached up and removed his helmet. Ralthos saw the face of a human male, maybe 45 years old. Dark hair, scarred face, and eyes that had seen too much death. Eyes that were tired but determined. "What are you?" Ralthos whispered, blood filling his mouth. The human looked at him without emotion. "You hurt people under my protection," he said quietly. "I am the consequence." Then he stood and replaced his helmet. He walked past the dying commander, heading for the hangar bay. Ralthos lay on the cold floor, his vision fading. His last thought was a warning he wished he could send to others. Never hurt humans. Never. Because they have warriors like this one. Warriors who do not stop. Warriors who do not forgive. Warriors who will walk through fire and death to bring their people home. The Vraxian commander died alone in the corridor, one more body among hundreds. And the Reaper continued toward the hangar, his mission not yet complete. The cargo hold was silent when the Reaper returned. The 4 human prisoners sat where he had left them, protected by the small shield devices he had given them. They looked up as he entered, and relief flooded their faces. "Is it over?" Sora asked. The armored man nodded. The ship is secure. We need to move quickly. He led them out of the cargo hold and through the corridors of the Dreadclaw. The prisoners walked slowly, their bodies weak from days of torture and hunger. What they saw shocked them into silence. Vraxian bodies everywhere, hundreds of them. The walls were marked with weapons fire and blood. Some sections of the corridor had been completely destroyed in the fighting. Jiwoo stopped walking and stared at the scene around them. "You did all this?" she whispered. "One person?" The Reaper did not answer. He just kept walking, leading them toward the hangar bay. But Minho understood the unspoken message. Yes, one person had done this. One human soldier who refused to let his people die in enemy hands. As they walked, Hyun found his voice. "How is this possible? We are human. We are not supposed to be this deadly." The Reaper glanced back at him. "Humans are persistence hunters," he said. His voice was calm, like he was explaining something obvious. "We are not the fastest, we are not the strongest, but we do not stop. Ever. They made the mistake of threatening our people." I reminded them why that is a mistake. They reached the hangar bay. A small ship waited there, sleek and black, built for stealth rather than combat. The Reaper helped each prisoner aboard, checking them for injuries as they entered. His hands were gentle now, a stark contrast to the violence he had shown earlier. Once everyone was inside, he took the pilot's seat and began starting the engines. As the ship powered up, Sora moved closer and asked the question they all wanted to know. "Who are you?" "Really?" The man was quiet for a moment. Then he reached up and removed his helmet completely. They saw his full face now. Asian features, dark hair streaked with gray, a face marked by scars and decades of hard living. But his eyes, though tired, held a warmth that had not been there during the fighting. "My name is Daewon," he said simply. "I am a soldier for the Terran Coalition Special Operations Division. I have been doing this work for 26 years. "How many missions?" Minho asked. 314. This is 315. The number hung in the air. 315 times, this man had gone into danger alone to bring humans home. 315 times, he had risked everything. "Why?" Jiwoo asked. "Why do you do this? You could stop. You could retire and live in peace." Daewon's expression changed. Something sad and distant appeared in his eyes. "Years ago, I was captured during the Keltharian swarm wars. I spent 3 weeks in a prison camp. I watched good people die because no one came for us. When I finally escaped, I made a promise to myself. No human under my protection would ever feel that abandoned again. I cannot save everyone, but the ones I can reach, I will always come for them." The 4 prisoners looked at him with new understanding. This was not just a soldier following orders. This was someone who had lived through their nightmare and dedicated his life to making sure others would not suffer the same way. Daewon undocked the stealth ship from the Dreadclaw and piloted them away from the warship. Once they were at a safe distance, he activated a communication array. "I need to send a message before we leave," he explained. He broadcasted on all Vraxian military frequencies. When he spoke, his voice was clear and strong. He spoke in perfect Vraxian language, every word precise. "This is Daewon, Terran Coalition Special Operations. Your warship Dreadclaw captured and tortured diplomatic personnel in violation of the Galactic Accords. Your commander was given multiple opportunities to release them peacefully. He refused. The Dreadclaw and all aboard are now casualties of that decision. Let this be a reminder to all species. Humanity protects its own. We do not forgive, we do not forget, and we will always come for our people." He attached files to the transmission, full tactical logs showing the torture of the prisoners, video evidence of the violations, proof that the Vraxians had broken every rule of civilized warfare. Then he activated charges he had placed throughout the Dreadclaw. The warship exploded in a bright flash of light. Metal and fire expanded outward, then faded into the darkness of space. The evidence was gone. The threat was eliminated. And the message was sent. During the journey back to human space, the 4 prisoners gradually recovered. They ate real food for the first time in days. They cleaned themselves and treated their wounds with medical supplies from Daewon's ship. Slowly, the horror of their captivity began to fade. Sora, using her medical training, examined Daewon when he let her. She found extensive scarring across his body, signs of old injuries that should have been fatal. She also found subtle cybernetic enhancements, small pieces of technology integrated into his nervous system that improved his reaction time and sensory processing. "You have modified yourself," she said. "These enhancements, they help you fight?" "They help me survive," Daewon corrected. "They let me react faster, see better in darkness, move more efficiently. But the technology is only part of it. Most of what I do comes from training and experience. I have spent decades learning how to infiltrate, how to fight, how to rescue. The enhancements just give me a small edge." "Why did you not retire after getting these injuries?" Hyun asked, gesturing to the scars. Daewon was quiet for a moment. "Because the work is not finished. There are still humans in danger, still people who need rescue. As long as I can fight, I will fight." Minho watched him pilot the ship and asked one more question. "Do you ever regret it? The violence, the killing?" Daewon's expression grew serious. "I regret that it is necessary. I regret that species like the Vraxians think they can hurt us without consequence. But I do not regret protecting my people." "Never that." They traveled for 2 days before meeting up with a Terran coalition fleet. A medical frigate came alongside, and doctors boarded to examine the 4 rescued prisoners. As they were being transferred to the larger ship, Jiwoo turned back to Daewon. "Will we see you again?" she asked. He shook his head. "Hopefully not. If you see me again, it means you are in trouble, and I would prefer you stay safe." Hyun grinned, despite everything they had been through. "Well, if we ever are in trouble, we know the Reaper will come." Daewon's expression softened just slightly. "Always," he said. The 4 prisoners left his ship and were taken to medical facilities. They would spend weeks recovering, both physically and mentally. But they would survive. They would tell their story. And their story would spread throughout human space and beyond. The legend of the Reaper grew. Other species learned what the Vraxians learned too late. Humanity may seem weak individually. They do not have thick armor or great strength. They do not have advanced psychic powers or natural weapons. But they have something more dangerous. They have warriors among them who embody every terrifying trait that made humans the apex predators of Earth: patience, persistence, intelligence, and the absolute refusal to abandon their own. Weeks later, the 4 survivors were reunited with their families. Minho returned to diplomatic service, though he now worked on establishing stricter protections for human personnel. Sora continued her medical career, specializing in treating rescued prisoners. Hyun took a position training other humans in survival tactics. Jiwoo joined security forces, determined to protect others the way she had been protected. And somewhere in the darkness of space, aboard a small stealth ship, Daewon received his next mission. More humans in danger. Another species that thought humans were easy prey. He checked his weapons, reviewed the intelligence files, and set course for the distant system. Because he had made a promise all those years ago in that prison camp. He would never stop. He would never give up. He would always come for his people. The Reaper had work to do.